You guys hear me?
We got you just loud and clear.
Nice.
Pride of
Yeah.
St. Paul's.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You got a good little group of guys on here, I see.
We
The
do.
ladies. Yeah. Awesome. Nice to see you guys.
So Coach April is a New Orleans native, and his father was one of the great special teams coaches in the NFL and coached with the Saints. And his father's from Chalmette and went to Nicholls State, so there's all sorts of connections here. And Zack was coached by Coach April here at Wisconsin, and maybe you can just begin by giving us a little background about your relationship and what you think the Saints are getting.
Yeah, for sure. So Zack is a very very fluid athlete, and I know he didn't play much off the ball, but that's not something that I would hold against him at all. Like we did a lot of stuff throughout spring that put him in positions that he's going to be in now. I thought he did a really good job at the Senior Bowl playing that stack linebacker position. He's a fast learner, right? He loves the game, so he's going to put a lot of time into it. And, he's a really of a homebody type of kid. And, I just speak highly of him as best as I can just because he's such a good person.
Of all the teams that he could have been drafted to, he ends up, in your old backyard. I guess, what does that mean to you, just to know, where he's going and to just know the type of organization that he's going into?
Yeah, when I saw the Saints, they traded up, and I was just hoping. I was like, man, this is going to be a perfect location, with the way the program's put together, the way that just the staff is built. Just got so much respect for Coach Payton, Jeff Ireland, Mickey Loomis, all these guys that have gone through, and you don't ever hear a bad word that comes out of there. These guys, they respect who they draft, they keep them around. And I was just really excited for him to be able to work with Dennis Allen too. What an awesome opportunity on a defense that's rising. Just a good deal for him. And obviously for me, I get to cheer for the Saints in more than one way, which is awesome, right? And I get to give him some pointers. Like, don't be surprised when someone asks you what high school you went to. The things like that I wouldn't be able to do if you went to like a Dallas. I wouldn't know the ins and outs, but I could tell him about Bayou St. John, and Irish Channel. I can do stuff like that now, which is pretty cool.
Where's the first? What type of reaction is he going to get when he says brown deer?
I missed you on that one.
I asked Jim the same question, but he obviously made a huge spike in production from junior to senior year, and he said he kind of took it on himself after you guys lost a lot from that 18 defense to be that. What did you see him kind of do to build himself up into the type of player he was as a senior?
Yeah, I think he was hungrier than he was. Two things happened for Zack, right? It was a coaching change, right? And that can good and a minus, right? Whatever it may be, there's a plus and a minus that can be on those. And his junior year was his first year he really got to play, right? So I really thought going into that season he was just trying to get on the field, right? And he had been injured and never really had an off season. After his junior season, I think he saw that he had the ability to do more than what he was doing. We met a lot more individually with him and I, and I could just tell that there was something different just in his summer work, right? Like he maxed out on everything he did was more, right? Everything he did was more. His meetings were more. His weights were more. And by the time we got to the season, right, I had no doubt that he was going to have a heck of a year. He just did it throughout camp. I knew it was going to happen for him. And I've seen guys that have come in his shoes that have done the same thing. And it was exciting to watch it really play out the way it did for him, for sure.
Coach, you kind of touched on his versatility a little bit. What about him, makes him able to kind of play off the ball, like you said, and play in space?
Yeah, well, you've got a really good athlete, man. And anybody that can run under a 4.1 probe shuttle, I mean, that's some sideline to sideline ability. And that's what he's got, right? He's got back and forth change of direction ability. I'm sure you guys have already reported on him playing basketball in high school, and you can see him dunking and all that. I mean, that's at a young age he's doing that. And just the twitch that he naturally has is going to put him in position. I'm just excited to see what what Coach Allen really does with them, because there's so many tools that they can play with.
And your defensive coordinator kind of mentioned you guys had him do a little bit more communicating, the calls and that sort of thing this year. Do you think he's going to be able to pick that up quickly at the next level?
The green dot's a thing. I hope he can, right? I do hope he can. He's more of an interior guy, right? Like he's more within himself in a game, but that doesn't mean like I coached DeMario, right? When he was at the Jets. I didn't think DeMario would be a green dot guy. Now you go look at him now, and he's vocal as you can get, right? For sure. And as you guys know, like he's probably one of the most vocal guys on the team. And he was like that with the Jets, but he wasn't a green dot signal caller. But he found it within himself to say, hey, if I do this, I got the ability to keep going. That I wouldn't see Zack not being able to do that too. That I see the same kind of person when that's all said and done in that realm.
You hooking him up with DeMario? Let him kind of learn under his wing, and before he even gets out here to training camp.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely gonna make sure that they know each other for sure. They got the same number, so I was like, yeah, Zack, you have to change your number, buddy. You ain't keeping that one.
So since you know New Orleans, I mean, where are you going to tell him to go? What's the first thing you're going to tell him about New Orleans that he should know, besides the high school thing, which is very true?
Yeah. For myself, I love Mid-City. Man, that's kind of when I had a year off. When I was at the Buffalo Bills, I had a year off. And my wife's from New Orleans as well. So we rented a house down in Mid-City, and we lived right off Bank Street, 2 blocks away from Jesuit. That's kind of like my realm right there. Riding bikes to that area through City Park. I'd tell him to look in that area. And, it's hard to find a spot that's bad to eat. So I'm not going to put any names out there because you know how that can go, especially in New Orleans.
I can't argue with that.
Another thing that we talked about with Jim is he was talking about how he was able to kind of lean on guys like TJ Watt for tips or whatever. And you guys have put a lot of pro players into the league defensively speaking in the last couple of years. How big of a resource is that for somebody like Zack or even guys still on your team?
Well, I think it's huge. Over the last 5 years, we had 6 outside linebackers get drafted. And that's not counting the guys that went on and signed up, was it not free agent, but signed as an undrafted free agent, right? So those guys are coming through the offices in the offseason a ton. I'm not surprised to see a bunch of those guys at the pro days, right? That's kind of what we've always been, Wisconsin-wise. There's a lot of tradition, and these guys stay in touch, man. They're a great resource for sure to bounce information off, but they're really a resource for the entire team. Right. And that's kind of how, the programs have been built over the years.
When did you first encounter Zack? You weren't there when he was recruited, were you?
I was not. I got there. I was 2 years with Zack, both the years that he started.
Okay. He obviously, a lot of guys from Wisconsin come from small schools there, guys who are in state. I know he was a gray shirt and everything. What kind of mentality does that kind of breed in a guy when you're coming from a small school and playing for the big state school in Wisconsin?
Yeah, I would compare it to LSU of the North, if you wanted to put it on something, right? I mean, we're in tops of our conference, playing in our championship every year for the most part, right? We're highly competitive, and to have a kid from, let's say there's just kind of give you a comparison of guys. Let's say that there's 6 kids in state, right, that have Division I offers. Well, if they're offered by Wisconsin, they're probably not going to leave. It's kind of the dream school to go to. It's not a small school at all. It's kind of, we got 40,000 students that are here. The city of Madison is 250,000 people. It's not a small setup. We got 86,000 sold out seats every game at our stadium. So, to look at that as a high school kid, and I mean, Camp Randall is an unbelievable stadium, and to say, hey, I'm going to get play in front of my family. the town I grew up in is an hour and a half away. I mean, that's what an awesome opportunity, right? So I think once he got that offer, it didn't matter who else offered, right? It was Wisconsin because that's the way it is here.
Great. Does anybody have anything else for Bobby?
No, other than Mid City is great. Yeah, it's a great neighborhood. Lived off Hennessy for 2 years.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
I rode my
live
bike
in
by your
Mid-City
house.
now too.
Yeah, okay.
I'm a Treme resident now, but I lived in Mid City for a little bit.
Yeah, everybody doing all right, man. That's tough over there. I was there. My parents live in Slidell, so I was down there. What was it, about 3 weeks ago? Right when they closed it up, man. Right when they went stay home, and I just stayed down there for 2 extra weeks just to hang out with mom and dad, make sure they were good. Praying for you guys, right? For really everybody.